Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome to another weekly episode of the Social Circus. My name is Sarah and I am your host. And this week I am thrilled to be joined by Marianne Tansley from Thrive Admin Services. Hi, Marianne.
Hey, Sarah.
So I'm very excited to have you here because you are, in fact, my first repeat guest on the show.
Have you run out of people already?
No. You're so cheeky. So the reason I've got Marianne back is because her episode where we talked about Microsoft and all of its suite of products was by far and away one of my most downloaded episodes. And I actually had a few people reach out to me to ask to have you back, which is kind of cool. And but really to talk a little bit more about Teams, which is one of the products within the Microsoft suite. So just in case people didn't catch you on a previous episode, and if you didn't, I will put it in the show notes, a link to that episode that you're in. But tell us a little bit about you and your business, really.
So I'm Marianne and I run Thrive Admin. I'm based in Hervey Bay I usually say sunny Queensland. This year's been a bit tricky, so we'll just say Queensland. It's been very wet. And I started Thrive in January 2020, coming off the back of about 20 years corporate admin experience. And that's refined down now into really specializing in Microsoft 365 and getting people to use it because you're paying for it, and learning and adapting that to your business so that you can make the most of the tools you're already paying for.
Brilliant. I love it. And I have to say, you are slowly converting me to Microsoft. I'm going kicking and screaming.
But get you there somehow.
I know. And I actually am not minding Teams. So I guess, look, let's talk turkey, because I'm a bit of a tech nerd, a bit like yourself, so it's a kindred spirit. So I've always loved digital tools, and so I've come from the world where we all used to use Skype, and I've got most of my family overseas, so we used a really big chunk of our time of communicating with them as using Skype. And then somehow along the way, Skype became super uncool, and then during COVID, Zoom became like this season's black, hey?
Oh, it was crazy. They obviously had the right marketing people in place already, because all you heard about when everybody had to stay home was jump on a Zoom. Let's have a Zoom. We'll do a Zoom quiz. We'll do work from home. And the word became a verb. It's like Google. So people now say, we'll have a Zoom, not we'll have a call. So they were in the right place at the right time. And I think poor Microsoft Teams got left for dust.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about it.
I know, and I have to say, one of the programs that I'm delivering for now has converted us to Teams, and I've got a few corporate clients who make me use Teams. And look, I don't mind it, but there is always a level of comfort around using software. So I use Zoom such a lot, and I've been using it exclusively for 2 years. I feel like I know how to use it. So there's always this trepidation about trying something new. But let's talk about how does it work and what do I need? It's a great place to start.
So the beauty of Teams is that you don't actually have to have a Microsoft subscription to use it. So you can come in as a guest. So for me, as a Microsoft user, if I want to have a meeting with you and you don't have a Microsoft subscription, you can just dial in on the web and work with it the same way you would Zoom. You can download the app and still not need to have an account, and you can dial in. It works on the phone, on your laptop, on your desktop, on the web. Anywhere you've got internet connection, it'll pretty well work for you. And it gives you all of the functionality everyone knows with Zoom. So you can video call, you can chat, you can share files, you can share links. But I find that over time, it seems to be doing so much more. And it's taking in all those other apps and programs that you use. And the other thing it's doing is that it started by giving you everything. And Zoom started by giving you everything. But Zoom's gotten tricky, and it started pulling back. And it started very sneakily saying, no, you can only have 40 minutes, and no, you can't have breakout rooms, and no, you can only have so much recording space, or and you've got to pay, and you've got to pay, and you've got to pay. Whereas Teams has built it all in, because you're already paying Microsoft every year for your subscription, and they've said, well, you're here, we want you to use all of our stuff, let's integrate it all.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons one of the programs I'm on has moved over, because they're going to have to suddenly pay for all these Zoom accounts when all of us have Teams already. So let's talk about how you and I are using it, because we obviously work together outside of chatting on podcasts. And you have so converted me to the app on my phone.
Yeah. Anything that you can have in your back pocket that automatically gives you everything you need is always going to get a bump up in, because I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing and open a laptop to be able to share a file or send a message, because that's not how we work anymore. Everyone works off their phone. So the fact that it's seamless and it integrates quite neatly with everything is lovely. For me, I use it as a one-stop shop now. So it is where I do my chatting. So for those of us who used to use MSN Messenger when we were first messaging all of our friends,
I might be of that vintage.
Yep, all of those direct chats and group chats, and it's probably akin to WhatsApp. Does everything that way.
I think it's actually even better than WhatsApp, and I would say it's akin to Slack, because I have a couple of corporate clients who we Slack with our digital agencies, and I don't love Slack, and again it becomes another blooming tool for me to manage. And I have to say, on Slack, I'm a bit crap on Slack. And so when you kind of introduced me to this, I was like, I'm not going to be rubbish at this, am I? And I'm already loving it. I'm loving the different chats that we have. I'm loving the ability. One of the things I really struggle with, and I suspect lots of people struggle with this, is communication with people who are our clients or who are our team, who are that we have a business relationship with. And one of my bugbears, and to all my people listening, pay attention, I do not want you to message me on Facebook. So Facebook for me is, I use Meta Business Suite for all my messaging on my social media platforms, and Facebook, my private account, is from people who are my friends. So my mum can message me and my kids can message me, and I find it really challenging when clients message me through that. I do have to suck it up because that's what they do, but I find it really, really overwhelming. And what I'm loving about Teams is it's a business only channel for my business, and it feels so exciting. I feel a bit grown up, actually. It sounds silly. I'm excited.
When you compare them, I like the way, if you compare them that way, Messenger doesn't give you that way to filter and sort and group things, and Teams gives you that way. You can say, okay, well, everything that you and I are working on, we might have 3 different projects and we've got 3 different chat threads.
Yes.
Whereas if you and I are chatting on Messenger, everything's in between you and me.
And it's overwhelming.
And everything gets lost. If you send 3 different messages, you can't easily jump back and forth. So it's designed to integrate your project management, your collaboration tools. You can share things with clients. You can not have, you can have a team that doesn't have your clients on. You have another team that does. So you can keep it professional. You can keep it internal, external, and it's just a nice, easy way to group and organize things. And we like things that are grouped and organized and look pretty.
And I have to say, I'm loving that, and I'm finding it much more intuitive than Slack. I'm finding it much, like, now you've got me on it, I'm like, oh, I'm into this. And Claire, my VA, I like send her little messages on there. And it's actually it's nice to have that informal communication, because Claire's very good and does email me questions because she knows I don't like Messenger. And I actually really like just being able to quickly respond and have a little chit chat rather than having an email. And it feels like a really nice way to communicate, but respecting both of us in the fact that we are business, have a business relationship, and this is business communication. And I really like that, because Facebook, there's always, I always, like, when I message you, I'm like, hey, are you all right to just have a quick chat? And I feel like I'm being a bit intrusive, and now I think to myself, I hate it when people do that to me. And now I feel grown up that I've got this separate tool now. It's exciting.
And I quite like the fact that for me, I can then work with my calendar. So if someone comes in and wants to book something with me, they can see when I'm not available. I can see when I'm booking appointments, it'll tell me I can't do things at this time. I can jump straight into a video call, or I can schedule one. So it gives me all that control that I don't have in tools like Messenger. I don't have any visibility on all those other things. And I can accidentally be, supposed to be somewhere else, and there's no warning about that. So I like having it all feed into one place.
And that's always lovely when everything's integrated, because obviously you're using Outlook and then you're using their calendar and all of those things. I'm still at G Suite. You'll have to work very hard to move me from that.
That's a much harder conversation to have.
But that's okay, because we've got Claire to keep me all sorted, so we're all good. So I've got another comment for you, because it fascinates me, and I'm quite a techie myself, and I'm married to a tech as well. So I'm always fascinated when people whinge about Teams, because I've just moved to it recently with one of the programs I train on. I've been a bit rubbish at it, so I haven't quite got everything nailed down like I have with Zoom. And it's interesting, you and I have had a couple of conversations in some group classes that we're in, and people are like, Teams is rubbish, it's really unreliable. And all I'm thinking in my head is, it's probably you.
Well, yeah. Sometimes it's a user problem.
A picnic, problem in chair, not in computer.
That sounds like a you problem. But often what I find is people who say that Teams is rubbish, they haven't checked into it for a really long time. And I was talking to someone this afternoon, and I said, the big problem is that even in the last 6 months, the improvements in Teams are phenomenal.
Yes.
And so if you haven't touched it since you were working in corporate, or since you had to do it, maybe at the beginning of when we were all spending a lot of time at home looking at each other on a screen, then it's come a really long way. A lot of those glitchy things seem to have been dealt with, and they keep integrating these extra levels of features and tools and integrations, not just inside Microsoft, but outside as well, to help make it easier for you to work with what you already have. So they're really trying to continue to adapt it in a way that makes it usable. You don't have to dump everything you already have. You can slowly build it into your business, which is just a much more practical approach for how we deal with new technology. You don't want to just dump what you have and then go, oh, that doesn't work either. Now I have to go back to what I was doing.
But I think you're really right, is that a lot of us haven't touched that for a couple of years. And early this year, I picked up a corporate client who just uses Teams. And I was like, oh. And as soon as I started using it, I was like, this is brilliant. It's like Zoom, only easier. That's how it felt. Yeah. And they were often driving the meetings, so they were doing the screen sharing and they were doing all those things. So I could sit there and be like a student and watch how they were using it. And I remember thinking to myself, because I'm always doing this and I'm kind of embarrassed that I'm not really on top of the costs in my business. I remember thinking to myself, I'm paying for Microsoft. I have a subscription and I'm also paying for Zoom. And it's kind of, I really love what you're doing, Marianne, in terms of trying to make our money work harder in our business. Because if we're already paying for the Teams, we really shouldn't be paying for Zoom. And it doesn't make any sense.
No, and that's like we were saying before. If you're paying for Teams, if you're paying for Microsoft generally in your business, and then you're paying for Zoom, you're probably paying for Slack, you're probably paying for Trello or Asana, you're probably paying for your Google Workspace, so you've got your Google Drive because you have to pay for that per space. And so there's all these pieces that you're paying, and it's just double dipping. And you can have it all in one nice little neat and tidy bundle. Look, I'm not going to say it'll just work perfectly the first time. There's always a gremlin or two. But on the whole, if you can slowly just strip away those costs, I mean, even if you take 2 of those out of the equation, the end of the month, the bottom line looks better.
Absolutely. And I unfortunately just paid my Zoom subscription for annually a few months ago. And now because we've moved away from it with some of the training that I do, I'm like, oh, I'm so annoyed that I've gone with this paid Zoom account when I could have now really pushed myself to learn and be competent with Teams, because it is really, really simple. And like you say, it does do things intuitively, like because you've got your storage with OneDrive, it will store your things straight to there instead of trying to find storage on your computer, which is always an ongoing issue for me. Yes. So I really like that it has that sort of full integration, which have to be honest, I lean very heavily on my tech husband for.
That's his job. You've got to keep him busy. You have to keep him busy.
Absolutely. So Teams is going to change us because we don't really need Zoom. And I think what you're trying to say is that we should go and give it another try, because potentially if we haven't tried it, it has really come a long way. And Absolutely. It just hasn't had the same sexy marketing that Zoom have had.
That's right. I mean, I think the big shift has started coming when Zoom made that change to the 40-minute cap on your free plan.
Yes.
That was very cagey. and a little bit sneaky, because how many people have a 40-minute call or a 30-minute call? So to be able to have, if you've already paying for a Microsoft Business subscription, you can have a call on Teams that goes for up to 30 hours.
Whoa.
As a single call. So I can
Is that
talk.
people watching me sleep?
I still don't know if I can do it. But that's, so you already get your webinars, you get your breakout rooms, you get the recording, you get transcription, and you get the longer calls without paying for anything else. So I think there'll start to be a shift in people who just don't want to pay to have an hour-long call with a client.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And I think we're going to see a really big pushback on that, and it'll be interesting to see where that takes Zoom in terms of their model, which I'd love to know what their profit looked like over the last 2 years. I was imagine it's like a straight line. It'll be a very pretty graph. And I feel like right now it's going to, because of these changes, it's going to really impact people. So it'll be interesting. And so with Teams, one of the things that you said that I just wanted to recap on, because this is really important and I didn't realize this myself, is I think we get reluctant to use software because we think our clients or our audience or whoever isn't comfortable with it. And we only have to dial back 2 years to remember how uncomfortable all of us were with Teams and online and things like that. And I wanted to reiterate one of the points you said, is that your client or your customer or your audience do not need to have a paid Microsoft subscription to use Teams.
No.
And I think that's huge.
I love the way it means you can play around with it. If you've already got Microsoft and you've already got it there, try doing it even internally. Have a meeting with your biz buddies instead of jumping on Zoom. Do it, or have a chat with your VA, or set up a chat with one client that maybe you've got a closer connection with to see if it works. Because like I said, you don't want to just ditch everything you've already set up and established. But if you can see that it works for one, you can replicate that out. So baby steps, but I think it's like everything. If you have a tinker and a play, you'll actually see there's a whole lot more in there than you realise. Yeah.
Oh, such juicy tips. I knew I wanted to have you to come back on, just talk about Teams, because I know that Microsoft has such a massive family of apps. It's almost overwhelming. And I suspect that we'll probably have you on again maybe next year to talk about another one of your favourite products. But look, I know we've talked very specifically on Teams today, but I'd love to know if you could share, what is your favourite Microsoft app in the suite, do you think?
I think it will, from a personal perspective, it will always be Word. Word is my happy place.
Yes.
And it's a similar thing. It's that people have moved away from Word for products thinking that they can't do what they want anymore. So people will go to Canva to create a lot of their business documents. And I always say Canva's amazing, but it's not a document tool.
Oh, I agree with that.
Text on Canva is just more hard work.
It's annoying. And I love, I'm a Canva devotee. And when people come to me and say this, I'm like, oh no, let's just do that in Word, because it doesn't have the formatting capabilities. It's not meant to be making words look beautiful. It's meant to make visually appealing things. And so when you have lots of text, there's just no way you can make that happen. And to me, I will always revert back to Word for professional documents for my clients, because I've kind of grown up with it and feel really comfortable with it, but I know that it does a beautiful job, and I know it has so many, when you know how to use Word and the formatting and the rules and all those kind of things, it's amazing.
I could spend all day in Word, and I'll be the first to put my hand up and say I'll jump into Canva and create a beautiful image to put in my document. But the core functionality and the versatility of Word now, from when I started working with it, is pretty impressive. Clippy isn't around anymore, which I'm a little sad about, but it's a really functional, and everybody knows how to use it. Everybody's got access to it. So it is the kind of the universal, which is what I love.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, Marianne, thank you again for your time today. I'm sure that everyone has enjoyed this immensely. I will pop in the links in the show notes as to how you can connect with Marianne. She does have an amazing Facebook group where she shares I'm feeling like endless wisdom on Microsoft, mainly because I'm such a novice compared to you. But I would encourage you to come and check out her group. It's brilliant, and you can connect with her. I'll pop all the links in the show notes. So Marianne, thank you again for your time today. I'm thrilled to have you back for a second showing.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
No worries. Thank you all again.
Thanks so much for tuning in to The Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favourite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.